In the third year of my secret relationship with Jackson, he suddenly announced his engagement. The bride wasn't me. People who knew about us felt sorry for me, but Jackson just laughed coldly. If you're so concerned, why don't you marry this washed-up woman? Later, when George fell seriously ill, our company faced a crisis, and I was forced to reveal my pregnancy and take over the family business. Mandy, is the child Mr. Jackson's? I smiled politely at the reporter. The child has nothing to do with Mr. Jackson. I heard that when Jackson saw my slightly rounded belly on TV that day, he was so furious that he smashed everything in the room. Later still, someone snapped a picture of the most mysterious person in H City, whispering to a woman on a crowded street. Mandy, the child is almost a year old and will soon be calling someone Daddy. When will you give me a title? I pushed open the room door. Jackson was on one knee, holding a huge diamond ring, proposing. But it wasn't to me. In front of him was a young woman in a white dress, very beautiful and graceful. She was moved to tears, nodding and crying as she said yes. I walked in, and Jackson didn't even look up, focused on putting the ring on her finger. Not until her friends took her to wash her face and fix her makeup did Jackson finally glance at me. Helen is pure and a bit timid. It took me quite a bit to win her over. Best not to let Helen know about any of our past nonsense. Also, she's agreed to marry me. I plan to announce the engagement tomorrow. I had a 3-year secret affair with Jackson. Apart from our families, only a few in our circle knew. As soon as he said that, those few in the room who knew looked at me. I took a deep breath. Jackson, can you hold off on the announcement for now? Even just a month, no, half a month would help. Jackson laughed, a slight sneer in his eyes. Mandy, are you still clinging on at this point? Jackson, for old time's sake. Enough. Jackson suddenly got icy and shattered the glass in front of him. In 3 years, my family has filled at least a 3 billion hole for X Group, isn't that enough? I had nothing to say. You should go. You don't want Helen to come back and misunderstand. I turned away, stiffly. As I opened the door, I overheard Jackson say to someone, if you care so much, why don't you take in this washed-up woman? I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly to myself. Our family indeed fell apart, especially after my parents passed. The company nearly crumbled. But Jackson seemed to forget, it was our broken X Group that saved him and his grandfather's lives years ago. But he only resented us for forcing favors, for being shoved upon him by X Group. The news of Jackson and Helen's engagement spread fast throughout H City. Already weakened and grieving from my parents' deaths, George ended up back in the ICU, enraged. While I stayed by his side day and night in the hospital, my uncle led a takeover at the company. With Jackson's family still around back then, they feared making bold moves, but now they had no qualms with me, an orphan with no parents. In a brief moment of clarity, George grabbed my hand and said, Mandy, the company was your parents' life's work. Even if it's destroyed, don't let those vultures get it. I couldn't help but cry my eyes out. Don't worry, I have a plan. My uncle insisted that a girl from X Group could not inherit the business. They used this as an excuse to seize all that belonged to X Group's main house. But I wouldn't let them have their way. 2 weeks after Jackson's engagement announcement, I made the most absurd yet crucial decision of my life. I needed a child to inherit the X Group legacy. Unable to meet the conditions for artificial insemination, I opted for natural conception instead. As for the father, Sam, the loyal housekeeper who'd been with George for life, presented the final selection of candidates to me. Ms. Mandy, take a look. The details are simple. From a city, carries the mother's last name, most likely a single-parent family. He has an impressive education, indicating high intelligence and good genes. The thorough medical report shows he's in perfect health, no hidden issues. Most importantly, the face in the photo was strikingly handsome. Sam, are you sure such an excellent man is willing to do this kind of work? I couldn't help but be curious. Sam chuckled kindly. Seems someone in his family is seriously ill, urgently needs money. I thought of George in the hospital and felt a pang of sympathy. Add another 50,000 for him. Yes, Ms. Mandy. On the 12th day after Jackson's engagement announcement, which coincidentally was my most fertile day, I finally met the man named Larry. He wore simple black dress shirt and pants, no visible brand, probably affordable supermarket clothes. Yet on him, they didn't seem cheap. As the contract stipulated, his eyes were covered with a black silk ribbon. When I entered, he instinctively stood and faced the door. Only then did I notice, he was tall and well-built, with broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs. Ms. Mandy? Larry tested the waters, his voice was pleasing, and I couldn't help but feel more satisfied. It's me, there's no need to be nervous. I walked up, patted his arm, firm muscle. Did you shower? I asked. Yes. Although nervous sweat dotted my back, I forced a confident, composed demeanor. Then let's start. Larry couldn't see me, but I could see him. After I uttered those words, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly. Facing me, with the black cloth, he nodded a touch. Okay, Ms. Mandy. His slender fingers undid each button on his shirt, pulling its hem neatly from his dress pants. When I saw his toned, narrow waist and V-line, my face heated instantly. By the time he undid his belt, I was flustered enough to turn away. The rustle of fabric halted. A deep voice with a sexy rasp filled the room. Ms. Mandy, it's ready. All right, go lie down on the bed. I tried to project an image of effortless ease as I turned to face him. The long black ribbon hung low from his cropped hair, concealing his eyes but highlighting his striking nose. At 24, it was the first time I'd so directly observed another's body. Ms. Mandy? Perhaps due to my silence, Larry softly called out. He stepped forward, reaching ahead as if seeking anyone present. His fingers lightly touched my shoulder. After a short pause, he gently grasped my shoulder, but then lifted me horizontally. My body sank into the soft embrace of the bed. Larry's hands thoughtfully propped on either side of me, careful not to press down on me. Let me know if it gets uncomfortable, Ms. Mandy. My heart was racing so fast, I felt dizzy, almost couldn't breathe. Stop with the chatter and hurry up. I turned my face away, biting my lip hard. Little did I know, my ears and the back of my neck were turning red. Okay. He lowered his head, the black ribbon slipping down, brushing past my collarbone. When Larry tried to kiss me, I dodged. Don't touch my mouth. I was bluffing, thinking my voice sounded tough. But I didn't realize the ends of my words were trembling. If it hurts, bite me. Larry held my face with his cool fingers, planting a gentle kiss on the side of my neck. Just as he leaned in closer, my phone suddenly rang. Larry paused instinctively. I sat up straight, reaching for my phone. Unexpectedly, it was Jackson. I hesitated for a moment but ended up hanging up. Though soon, he called again. I glanced at Larry's face beside me. They say people with thin lips like his are naturally cold-hearted. For a moment, I was absent-minded, but maybe that's a good thing. Cold-heartedness suits this business. After all, there's no strings attached after the deal. I answered the call. Jackson's voice sounded oddly unfamiliar. Mandy, why didn't you tell me George was hospitalized? It's not a secret. Where are you now? I'll pick you up, we can visit George at the hospital together. No need. Mandy, George has been good to me, I want the old man to be at peace now. I said, no need, but thank you for the gesture. Mandy, you should understand the importance of moderation, right? Jackson's voice was filled with barely suppressed anger. I know him well, for someone so arrogant, calling me to make amends was rare. But honestly, it's really not needed. It's too late for that. I clutched my phone and glanced at the man in front of me. I could sense the strong emotions he was holding back, barely contained. Jackson, I hadn't finished when Larry suddenly spoke in a low voice. Ms. Mandy, can we continue now? A heated kiss fell once more on the corner of my mouth. He was tense, ready to go. The phone slipped from my grasp, hitting the floor. I frowned and let out a soft grunt. Ouch. Jackson's voice broke into fragments on the line. Mandy, who are you with? The screen went dark. In pain, I bit down hard on Larry's forearm. He paused for a moment, then leaned down again, gentle yet firm. His lips captured mine. I instinctively tried to push him away. But after the gentle kiss, came a piercing pain. Larry abruptly halted his movement. The satin ribbon that fell from his brow lightly brushed against my neck. I cried from the pain, my fingertips unconsciously digging deeply into his arm. His large hand, which had been holding my waist, had let go at some point. He pulled me into his embrace entirely. My wet hair clung messily to the side of my face, but his long fingers gently brushed it away. The scorching yet tender kiss landed once more. As I gradually adapted, my mind began to blur. He pressed me back down again. I briefly lost consciousness during it all, so I didn't know that Larry untied the ribbon blindfolding my eyes at that moment. In the dim-lit bedroom, he looked at my face, kissing from my brow down. The next morning when I woke up, I found myself dressed in clean, soft pajamas. The other side of the bed was empty. As if everything from the night before was just an illusion. I struggled to get up and wash up. When I went downstairs for breakfast, Sam told me Larry had left as agreed, the night before. I sat at the table, thinking of his overstep last night, though I eventually lost control too. My neck felt warm. Have you paid him? 1/3 has been paid as agreed, the rest will be given when you confirm pregnancy. I nodded, saying no more. At the Intercontinental Hotel, Larry had long changed out of that cheap outfit. He finished swimming in the private pool on the top floor. The family housekeeper was already waiting in the living room. Catherine heard you're in H-City these days, she wants you to join her for dinner tonight. Larry casually tossed his towel aside, chuckling, her intentions aren't about the dinner. You're turning 28 after the new year, no wonder Catherine's anxious. Larry walked to the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water. Sweeping his wet black hair back, revealing his square forehead and sharply angled brows. Not like there's any rush. In a few days, she might just be a grandma. Larry took a swig of water, joking with the housekeeper who had watched him grow up. The housekeeper was startled. Oh dear, you can't play around like this. You're the only heir, your future children would be worth their weight in gold, better be careful. I know that. Larry sat on the sofa, eyes cast on the clear bite mark on his left arm. Thinking about that night, a gentle look gradually filled his expression. But things don't go as planned. My period was only a day late, but still came as usual. I left the bathroom and sat on the couch, feeling somewhat defeated. Lately, the outside world had become more chaotic, and George had fallen into a deep coma. Doctors said he could last at most a month. I called Sam over. Get in touch with Larry, let's try again next month. Yes, Ms. Mandy. I stood up, took a few steps, and then stopped to look at Sam. Make sure to go over the rules with him again. If it wasn't for wanting to avoid another completely unfamiliar man, I wouldn't hire Larry again. After all, that night, he overstepped more than once. The day before seeing Larry again, I ran into Jackson at a party. Surprisingly, he was without his fiancée, Helen. Seeing him from afar, I diverted my gaze. Today was the birthday celebration of an old family friend, Helen's mother. I attended partly to reconnect with my parents' old friends. But clearly, I was being naive. I've long understood how realizing one's absence leaves a room cold. But today was a more direct experience. Though Jackson and I had a secret relationship, such things aren't hidden forever. For those 3 years, I did benefit from Jackson's influence to manage a foothold. But now, with Jackson announcing his engagement, as an unconnected orphan, who would still acknowledge me? Holding the wine glass, awkwardly I stood for a long time. Helen's mother acted as if she just noticed me, clinking glasses with me. But obviously, there was no desire to make small talk. Naturally, I wouldn't impose either. After honoring her with a drink, I moved to a quieter corner. Being cold-shouldered like this, my mood took a nosedive. Unknowingly I drank a few more glasses. I didn't realize when Jackson approached. Mandy. He looked down on me as always, from his high pedestal. But I wasn't walking on eggshells anymore, trying to maintain a relationship with him. Mr. Jackson. I gave him a cold greeting and was about to leave. Jackson stopped me. Mandy, I saw George the other day. He's not doing well. Yes, the doctor talked to me. Jackson's voice softened a bit. Mandy, I heard about the trouble at X Group. What was Jackson trying to say? I looked at him calmly, yet detached. When I was younger, I was so naive. I thought knowing each other since childhood, growing up with a first love, meant something. I believed the X Group's great kindness to his family would make him treat me well. But I ignored one thing: if a man doesn't like you, even kindness can't bind him. It's not right for our X Group to push because of what we did in the past. To be fair, Jackson never really owed me anything. After all, you can't force love. Jackson stepped closer, lightly holding my hand. Mandy, if you weren't so stubborn, maybe I'd help you. Help me? Yes, our lives were saved by the X Group, after all. Jackson chuckled. I've been waiting for you to yield these days. Mandy, we've known each other for so long, I wouldn't truly let you suffer. Jackson, just say what you want. I won't marry you, but we can keep things as they were. I looked at Jackson, surprised. After all, the other night, he proposed to Helen, so deep and passionate, like a scene from a movie. But apparently, it was all just an act. You have a fiancé. So what? In this circle, who doesn't have multiple relationships? Jackson looked at me arrogantly. Mandy, with X Group's current situation, you know what choice to make. Being with me will only benefit you. Jackson. I interrupted him with disgust. Until today, I didn't hate you at all. In fact, I was reflecting on how our X Group pushing things was a bit much. But now, I see things differently. Mandy. You're a complete jerk. If our X Group knew they saved an ungrateful jerk, a total scumbag, they'd regret lending a helping hand. Mandy, saying things like that won't help you. Think about your parents' hard work. If you ruin it all, what would they think? If my parents knew I saved the company by becoming your mistress, they wouldn't forgive me. You'd best think carefully. You know I won't give you another chance. I picked up my drink and threw it in his face. Get lost. Jackson's face turned dark with rage. I was ready for him to possibly hit me. He's never faced such an insult. Mandy, I'll wait for the day you regret this and come crying back. Jackson turned and left. The surrounding crowd buzzed with chatter. I stood there, unfazed, and walked out. Just got in the car, when Sam called. Ms. Mandy, they've been picked up. Got it, I'm on my way. I hung up and gazed at the dark sky from the car window. If I don't succeed in getting pregnant tonight, my time will run out. The car stopped at the villa. The lights in my bedroom were already on. I got out, and without anyone's help, I stumbled upstairs. Larry was sitting quietly on the sofa, just like before, with a blindfold. I leaned against the door, a bit tipsy, sizing him up. Maybe it was the alcohol, but suddenly my emotions got the best of me. Ms. Mandy? Larry must have heard me. He turned his face to where I was, even with the satin blindfold. Step by step, I walked over, my eyes scanning him. The air was filled with a faint, fresh scent of someone who just showered. His clothes weren't his, probably prepared by Sam, and they suited him well. Larry stood up, towering over me. Especially now, without my heels, I felt less intimidating. I stood on my toes, grabbing his jacket. Larry, who said you could kiss me? Who allowed it? Ms. Mandy? Larry chuckled lightly. Yes, Ms. Mandy, you're right. I crossed the line. Will you do it again? I won't. I patted his face, satisfied. You're obedient. I like that. As long as Ms. Mandy is happy. Just. I let go and stepped back, looking him over. Aren't you capable? Otherwise, why am I not pregnant? Larry clearly froze for a moment. I'm giving you one last chance. If I can't get pregnant this time, Larry? Like this. I patted his handsome face again. I'll replace you. If there was some kind of regret medicine. That night, I'd never have said those reckless words. Especially questioning a man's ability. The consequence? Larry practically wore me out that whole night. Not only did he kiss me multiple times, but he also made me initiate a kiss. If not for my tearful pleas, he might not have stopped. That night's ordeal was clearly effective. George was declared to be on the brink again. When the side relatives of X group cornered me at the office demanding the seal, I called for a press conference. During the conference, I revealed my pregnancy report. I declared that the child would bear my surname and inherit my parents' legacy. After a short session with the reporters, Jackson called. He sounded furious, his voice hoarse. Mandy, I've never touched you. Where did that child come from? Was this a setup? I understood Jackson's anger. After all, calculating everything, I was 5 weeks pregnant, and it had only been 3 months since we broke up. You never touched me, and I never said the baby's father was you. I stepped into the elevator, looking at my reflection. Jackson, we've broken up, let's keep our lives separate. Don't call me again. Mandy, you're really pregnant? Who's the father? Tell me. I didn't reply. After hanging up, I went straight to delete his number. From now on, this will be my biggest secret. That guy named Larry took the money I gave him and went back to City A. We'll never meet again in this lifetime. The next May, I gave birth to my eldest son, Steve, in City H. Unlike what I expected, he didn't exactly resemble me. Sam said Steve's eyes and jawline looked just like Larry's. When I look at him, I often feel dazed. I had Larry blindfolded back then, so he wouldn't know what I looked like, or who I was. But Sam had seen him. If Sam says so, it must be true. So, that's what Larry's eyes looked like. Even with the blindfold, you could tell he was pretty handsome. A guy like him, once past his struggles, would definitely have a bright future. About the past that couldn't see the light of day. He probably wants to forget it even more than I do. So, I don't have to worry about him suddenly appearing to claim the child nor about ever meeting him again. Whenever I see Steve though, I remember those 2 nights. This lifetime, maybe he'll be the only man I have. Maybe those 2 nights are the only joy I'll ever have. At Steve's full-month celebration, the most discreet and mysterious family in City H, the Smiths, sent a lavish gift. I was a bit surprised. Even the once mighty X group or the still popular Jackson family couldn't compare. There were no ties between X group and the Smiths, we couldn't even get close. Why would the Smiths send such a generous gift? Even more surprising, on Steve's 100th day, Catherine paid a visit herself. She invited me to a small gathering 3 days later. I felt anxious but also confused. Catherine seemed like a gentle and kind elder. She showed no malice toward me and seemed to adore Steve. During her visit, aside from bringing me a gift, she prepared an abundant 100-day gift for Steve. When she left, she held Steve fondly, looking back several times. That aroused my suspicion. So on the day of the meeting, I made sure Sam stayed home to watch over Steve. I then took my assistant and driver to Catherine's private club. As soon as my car stopped, several people came to greet me warmly. Mandy, please come in. Our madam has been waiting for you. Yes, she instructed us to look out for your car. Thank you, I said with a smile and followed them to the atrium. Unexpectedly, I saw a dark gray Bentley parking nearby. The driver hurried to open the door. A tall man got out of the car. Through a row of flowering trees, all I could see was a silhouette. My heart skipped a beat, and my steps paused. I had never seen Larry in the daylight or bright light, but that figure felt strangely familiar. Then I couldn't help but dismiss the thought. Larry was from City A. His mother was from City A too. Sam chose him precisely because he wasn't from City H. He wouldn't suddenly appear in City H. Even if he came, it wouldn't be a surprise. Could it be him? Mandy? Someone beside me called gently. Snapping back to reality, I caught up with their pace. Does Catherine have another guest today? It's our young master who's just returned to City H, the person in front replied enthusiastically, pointing to the Bentley. That's his car. So the person earlier was Catherine's only son. Catherine was also married into the Smiths from City A to City H. So it wasn't Larry. I sighed with relief, yet felt an inexplicable sense of loss. I couldn't help but chuckle at myself for feeling that way. Why did I feel lost? Was I secretly hoping to see Larry again? What we had was just a transaction. Once it's over, it should be completely and cleanly severed. Even thinking that, I felt a bit uncertain. As I entered the atrium, hearing the laughter inside. The one talking with Catherine was probably her only son. Instinctively, I looked up. I met the eyes of that man. They were eyes I'd never seen before yet seemed so familiar. For an instant, my heart stopped, as did my thoughts. Mandy, you're here. Catherine warmly stood up, holding my hand and guiding me to a seat, instructing a servant to serve tea. Larry, this is Mandy. Catherine looked at her son, then at me, her smile widening. Mandy, this is the son who's been such a disappointment to me. Mandy, pleased to meet you. Larry approached, extending his hand to me. My heart started and gradually pounded. My mind remained blank while I began to hear buzzing in my ears. I didn't politely respond, nor did I reach out to shake his hand. Instead, I looked at Catherine, somewhat rudely. Catherine, what did you just call him? Catherine seemed slightly taken aback but continued smiling. His name, Larry. Dazedly, I repeated, Larry? I looked at the man in front of me. His build was just like Larry's. If I covered his eyes, leaving only his nose and lips. Suddenly, my body swayed a bit. Mandy? Larry quickly steadied me. But I pushed him away, lifting a hand to gently cover his eyes. Exactly the same, exactly the same. I remembered the first night with him. I thought his lips were a bit thin, they say men like that are fickle. But for me, fickleness was a good thing, perfect for this transaction. Why did he deceive me like this? Imagine being born with a silver spoon, a high and mighty rich kid. Yet pretending to be a broke college student. Even making a ridiculous deal with me. Alright, maybe it was for fun, for the thrill. Once the deal was done, it should have been all over. But why does he suddenly show up again? Why get involved with me and my kid? It's only now that I sort of get why the Smiths sent gifts for the baby's first month. Why Catherine would visit personally when Steve was 100 days old. And why they adored Steve so much. They knew Steve was Larry's child. They want to take my child away. When my hand fell from Larry's face, tears just burst out. Larry was obviously flustered. Mandy? He instinctively tried to wipe my tears, but I pushed his hand away. Sorry, I'm not feeling well, I want to go home. Mandy, you look really pale. Let Larry drive you, someone suggested. I wiped my tears, looked at Larry, and couldn't help but laugh a bit. Mandy? Without another word, I picked up my bag and walked out. Catherine and Larry followed, but I didn't stop. Everything was just too sudden, too overwhelming to handle. I felt like a fool who had been kept in the dark. Mandy, can't we talk? Larry grabbed my wrist. I shook him off without thinking. If I remember correctly, the contract was very clear about us having no further ties when it ended. You got your money, stick to that agreement. I took a deep breath, calming myself down. The child is mine, and he has nothing to do with you. No one is taking him from me. Mandy, I never intended to take the child away. Fine, then it's my bad for thinking so. Let's pretend I never said anything. Can I go home now? Maybe my mood was too bad for him to push it further. Larry didn't stop me anymore. Catherine called a few times, but I ignored her. Larry even visited me at home, but I didn't see him. Steve grew every day, and no surprise, he looked just like Larry. I learned a bit about Larry from Sam. He's an only child. The grandparents on both sides have no other grandkids. It wasn't exactly deceit back then. Larry was his real name. Recalling those scarce memories makes me cringe. I even felt sorry for him and wanted to give him an extra $500,000. Did he laugh at my foolishness when he got the money? I honestly don't get it. Someone like him, having everything at his feet, any woman, any thrill, why choose to mess with me? He said he didn't want the child. But I'm not naive enough to buy that. They've got no one else in the family. Even if Larry's not interested, the elders might be. What if they really try to take him? I can't even fathom that outcome. It'd be an uphill battle with no chance of winning. Despite shutting out the Smiths, Larry seamlessly slipped into my life. They didn't seem eager to fight for Steve. Instead, gifts for us kept coming. Even when I refused them at the door, they'd persist. Sam even suggested that the Smiths' willingness to swallow pride was rare. Sam noticed Larry waiting downstairs one September afternoon when the heat was unbearable. Larry was there, sweating, with his suit draped over his arm, shirt sticking to his back. Strangely, I didn't think the Smiths harbored bad intentions. And Larry didn't strike me as a bad guy either. Sam, glancing downstairs, seemed somewhat sympathetic. This past month, you've seen it all, miss. Honestly, with a background like his, if Larry wanted anything, would he trouble himself like this? I couldn't help but look down at Larry standing there for almost 2 hours. In the heavy heat, if something did happen. Thinking about Steve and how similar he looked to Larry softened my heart. Let him in. Have some tea prepared for the heat. I said gently, my gaze lingering on his aristocratic face. After a while, I looked away, saying, I'll go down and talk to him properly. Sam cheerfully headed downstairs, and I waited a bit before changing and going down. Larry was sipping tea in the living room. Seeing me, he set the cup aside and stood, Mandy. I asked the staff to leave us alone. Larry, let's talk, you and Catherine, what do you want from this? Larry looked at me, not speaking for a long time. I listened to the clock ticking, and birds softly chirping outside. The distant sound of Steve crying and then quieting. Inside, cool air surrounded me, but my mind crawled with unease. Before I could usher him out, Larry spoke up, Mandy, I want to marry you. I was stunned, almost dropping my teacup. Larry continued, Mandy, this idea wasn't spur of the moment or calculated. Then what is it? Larry offered a slight smile, Mandy, do you remember saving some people from the sea with Samuel 20 years ago? Of course, I remember. But I was just a little kid back then. George would often talk to me about it, which is why I remember it today. Back then, Jackson and George were the ones rescued by my family's private yacht. I was also among those rescued, but Grandpa never mentioned you. Because it was a cousin who took me out to sea, he was afraid the family would find out and hold him accountable, so he hid my identity. I was only 8 and got scared on the sea, almost losing my life. All I remember is the yacht had a carving of S. Larry's voice suddenly softened as he recalled, and there was a very cute little girl who gave me a cup of hot water. Mandy, all these years, I've never changed my mind. I want to find that person and marry her. Larry's been gone a long time, but my mind's still a mess. I called Sam to the study room. Sam, how did you find Larry in the first place? Actually, Larry approached me first, Sam said, hesitant to meet my eyes. I had already picked 2 candidates for you and was about to deliver their profiles. But Larry's profile and resume were so impeccable, I personally favored him and slipped him in. I didn't expect you to choose him too. I felt both amused and exasperated. So confident, isn't he? What if I hadn't picked him? That's when I recalled seeing his photo in the document Sam sent. I was really drawn to his face at first glance. Sam, what do you think I should do now? You're not even 25 yet, Sam sighed. You once said you wouldn't marry again, but I never agreed with that. You're so young, with so much life ahead of you. If Larry has genuine feelings, maybe you could give it a shot. Besides, the Smiths don't seem interested in taking the child, and they seem sincere. Sam added sympathetically, I know you were hurt by Jackson and his family, but there are good guys out there, right? But he lied to me. Why didn't he just find me and say he wanted to repay us? There are so many ways to do that. Why this? Sam chuckled, well, it's because you were too hasty. If Larry hadn't intervened, you would have ended up with someone else by now. But, it was a precaution. Larry was scared he'd be too late and regret it forever. I grabbed a pillow and buried my face in it. But I'm still mad, and I don't like him. Why try with him? Even if I wanted to date, it might not be him. There are tons of good-looking guys in H City. Trying not to laugh, Sam said, all right, you can date whoever you want. But the moment I make a move, Larry seems to know right away. Even when I was just on a date for afternoon tea, his Bentley was parked nearby. Though nothing was official between us, I felt caught in the act when his car showed up. Larry didn't disturb me or even get out of the car, but I felt uneasy and ended up making excuses to leave the date. As night fell, I finally grabbed my bag and headed out. Larry got out of the car, too. The streetlights cast a colorful glow over him. I pretended not to see him and kept walking till I reached the crossroads, never looking back. But I knew, without a doubt, he was following me. As the light turned green and I went across the street, Larry gently grabbed my wrist. Cyclists zoomed by, and he pulled me to safety in front of him. H City had gotten colder. He was wearing a thin navy blue coat, and I was completely enveloped in it. Mandy, he called softly, fixing my messy hair in the breeze. I noticed someone taking photos nearby. Rumors about the Smiths and Larry have been rampant lately. He spends most of his time in a city, and in H City, he's low-key and mysterious. But he's been visiting my place too often, attracting nosy people and paparazzi. Larry, I think someone's snapping pics, I said, trying to pull away. Instead, Larry let go of my wrist and wrapped his arm around my waist. Mandy, he whispered, almost pleadingly, Steve is almost 1 and can almost call me Dad. Will you not give me a chance? Pictures and videos of us were everywhere in H City, with people trying to lip-read what Larry said to me. Even Jackson visited my place. It was odd because he used to love Helen so much, yet they announced their engagement almost 2 years ago and haven't tied the knot. Jackson was straightforward, is the child Larry's? I didn't answer directly, countering, what does it matter to you? Mandy, Larry's from a great family, and being the only descendant of both the Smiths and his maternal family, do you think he approached you just for the kid? Is that any of your business? I shot back. Mandy, I'm concerned for you. I don't want you to get tricked and end up getting hurt. What could he trick me about? If he wanted Steve, you're overthinking. Larry showed up quickly, must have been Sam again. I leaned back on the cozy couch, sipping hot tea. Larry walked in, snow-dusted, and the butler promptly served his favorite tea. He sat beside me as comfortably as if he owned the place. Jackson looked a bit awkward but still managed to say, are you telling me Larry never thought about this? Steve is your kid, your son. Even if you haven't thought about it, haven't the Smiths or your mother's family? I held my teacup, looking down at the tea leaves floating inside it. This was actually something I was curious about too. But I never asked Larry. Larry lowered his head to drink his tea, the sound of the lid clinking was crisp. Inside, it was warm, but outside, snow was falling heavily. I put down my cup and looked outside at the snow. But Larry grasped my hand again. Steve will always have his mother's last name, Larry said with determination. Jackson was visibly surprised. Larry, can you really do that? I couldn't help but look at him. Time will tell, I thought. Everyone can make promises, right? Jackson's face looked worse. Larry chuckled lightly. Indeed, who can't make a promise? Jackson and your grandfather probably know this best. Jackson's face turned pale. Yeah, his grandfather made all those promises long ago. But in the end, they meant nothing. When George left me in his care, he also promised he would take care of me and protect the X group. And what happened in the end? Yet, I finally let it go. At last, I completely let it go. We place hope in return, which is why we become so disappointed. And when we stop expecting anything in return, that's when life gives us the best arrangement. Like, bringing Larry into my life. After the marriage between Larry and me was settled, he naturally began staying at Mandy's place. It was still the same room. Still that serene night. The only difference was, Larry was no longer wearing a black blindfold. We both had a bit to drink. Feeling tipsy, I pushed him onto the couch and really looked at him for the first time. What are you thinking about? Wondering why you're doing this. I have no way to repay your kindness, so of course, I had to give myself to you in return. But haven't I gotten the short end of the stick then? Larry laughed, holding me tight, resting his chin on my neck. Mandy, it's my fault. Of course, it's your fault. You have no idea how much I disliked you. You don't know how much I liked you either. Are you serious about letting Steve have my last name? Of course. What if I don't want more kids in the future? Then we won't have any. But the Smiths and your mother's family only have you. They have Steve. Larry lowered his head and softly kissed me. Isn't he my child too? Doesn't he carry the blood of the Smiths in your family? Not many people think so clearly. People care about different things, that's all. I couldn't help but smile, holding his face, like I did that night. I asked him. Took a shower? Yes, Ms. Mandy. Okay, then get undressed. His eyes twinkled with a smile as he pulled me to the side and stood up. In the warm house, Larry raised his hands to unbutton his shirt. He smoothly pulled out his shirt tails, then undid his belt. But this time, I didn't look away. I watched until the end. He cleared his throat and his fiery gaze swept over my face. Mandy, girls should be a bit reserved. I laughed and hugged him. Are you shy? Larry caught me steadily and whispered in my ear, Ms. Mandy, can I kiss you this time? I didn't answer but stood on my toes and kissed him instead.